Thank you. Okay. Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yay. Hey, Nail Nation. Happy Thursday. I'm super excited about our special team call today with Leah, my personal business coach. It's such a pleasure that I get to share her with you guys once a month. She is just so full of knowledge and amazing. You need to check out her latest business adventure, which is the CEO Kid. So go check that out. It is so cool. Do you like my friend today? This Airbnb does not have an office. So I'm sitting in the kitchen. I've got a cow looking over me today, and he's saying, "Move over February. It's time for March." So we've got the end of the month today, tomorrow. I know everybody's like scrambling. So it'll be really refreshing to hear from Leah today. So I am just gonna hand it over to you, girl.
Okay, perfect. I'm excited. I'm actually really, really excited about what I want to talk with you guys about today. And so I want to start with this thought, okay? So I want to start with this idea that what you expect, you will get. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that in your life, in what you're experiencing right now, in where you've gotten to, where you want to go. What you expect is what you will get. So there's a really interesting study that was done in Japan. And in this study, there were 13 students who they convinced to be part of the study. There are certain studies that really only students are willing to participate in because, well, they need money the most, I guess. So they convinced these students to come in and be part of the study. And what they're going to do is they're going to take each of their arms, and on their left arm, they put poison ivy. Yeah, who's going to sign up for that study? So they rub poison ivy all over the arm, but they tell them that this is a harmless plant. And then on the other arm, they rub the harmless plant, but they tell them that this is the poison ivy, and they want to see what's going to happen. Well, this not only, so you might be thinking like, oh, okay, well, I bet they thought, oh my gosh, it's itching, it's whatever, even though there was nothing there. It wasn't just that. They actually started getting rashes. They started getting bumps. Like their arm reacted to the arm that had nothing harmful on it. It reacted with rashes and bumps and scratches and red and all kinds of problems. And except for one of them, there was only one out of the entire group who on the arm that had the actual poison ivy had a reaction. Nobody else did. What we expect is what we get, okay? So here, and we've heard about the things about, you know, people taking placebo drugs, they think it's the real drug and they're getting these results, they're getting these outcomes, even though there was no medication in what they were taking. It was a sugar pill. And yet their mind had that power and their mind took over. We respond based on what we think is going to happen. So I want you to look at your business right now and the way you've shown up in your business lately. And I want you to ask yourself, am I responding based on what I think is going to happen? We all know that there are certain times that are generally kind of harder months, right? Like, oh, this is just, we all know, company-wide, this is a bad month, this is a bad time. And yet, there are going to be people who still do incredible in those months. There's people who kill it, even though they shouldn't, even though it's not supposed to be a great time. What is the difference there? They are expecting to succeed. You know, you kind of heard like that whole ignorance is bliss. Sometimes it is, because it's like, oh, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be able to do this. So I just did it and it worked because there wasn't anybody to tell me that I couldn't. Now the problem and what gets in the way is that there are people who tell us that we can't. There are messages that get out there and they get in our head. And so we got to figure out, how do we get past those? There's an amazing story about Steve Harvey. And when Steve Harvey was young, he went to school one day, and he's in elementary school, and the teacher tells everybody that they are going to write down what they're going to be when they grow up. And he's so excited about this paper, and he writes it out, and he says, I'm going to be on TV. And that's what he says. And he turns it in, and that day at the end of class, and the next day everybody sits down, and the teacher invites Stevie, that's what he's called when he was a kid, was Stevie. She invites little Stevie Harvey up to the front. And in his mind, he thinks, this is because my paper was so good. She is so impressed. She is so inspired by my awesomeness that she is going to want me to read it for the whole class. But that's not what happens. Instead, she reprimands him. She tells him, do you know anyone who's ever been on TV? Have you ever met someone who's been on TV? What makes you think that you could be on TV? And he goes back, and he's dejected, and he sits in his little seat, and he can't even believe what has just happened. And he gets home from school, and he finds out that his teacher called his mom because she was so upset. So she called his mom to tell her how little Stevie's report was not acceptable and that he needed to redo it. So he comes in, and his mom calls him into the kitchen, and she has this conversation, and he's even more dejected. He's even more upset. And so he goes into his room, and he's sitting in his room, and he's frustrated, and he's upset, and he's supposed to write a new paper about what he wants to be when he grows up, but what he wants to be is on TV. But they're all telling him that this can't happen. And his dad comes in. His dad sits down on the corner of the bed, and his dad says, okay, we're going to give your teacher what she wants. You're going to write a new paper. You're going to say you want to be a fireman or a policeman or a business owner, whatever. We're going to turn that in. But I want you to write down, I will be on TV. And he had him put it in his top drawer, and he had him read it every single day from that day forward until he left the house. And of course, what is amazing and how he finishes this story is that he is on TV 7 days a week. He is on TV every single day. Now, that journey wasn't easy. There was a time where he was homeless, where he was living in his car, where it looked like this is not going to happen for me. But he kept looking for doors. And the second he saw one, he bursted through them. And I want you to think about that and think about, again, what are you expecting in your life? Are you expecting that things are going to go right, that the doors are going to open? Or are you expecting that things are going to go wrong? So my very first official job, when I had just graduated high school over the summer, was working at AT&T Wireless. And I loved this job. I felt so grown up. Like, I was like, I have arrived. I am a grown up. I am so legitimate. And I absolutely loved going to the job. We worked with the Fortune 500 companies that had their services through AT&T. So I get to talk to these really big companies. It just sounded so impressive in my mind. And so I would go to hang out with friends, go to parties, go to whatever. And everyone would be talking about like, oh, what do you do? What are you up to? Right? And so I would talk about, oh, I have this job. It's so awesome. And I decided at some point that I probably didn't seem cool because everyone else talked about their life like it was so awful. Oh my gosh, I have to go to work tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I have to finish this, right? Like everyone else talked in this really negative way about what they had to do and how much they hated their job. And I decided I probably look really lame, which sucks for me that I cared, right? But this is the story. So I thought I would start changing what I would say. And I remember even having a conscious moment where I said, okay, but I don't actually believe this. Like, I'm going to say it, but I mean, I know my job's awesome, but I'm just going to tell people that, oh yeah, I know I have to go to work. Oh, it's going to be so early. And I started feeding into this because I thought that's what people wanted to hear. And that was going to make me connect with people more. And over a very short period of time, I went from loving that job to hating it, absolutely hating it, to where I quit. Like I just quit because I couldn't stand it anymore. And nothing changed about that job except for the way that I looked at it, except for the way that I started talking about it, that I started allowing my mind to go to. So what shifts do you need to make? And I hope you've got a little piece of paper and as thoughts are coming in your head, you're writing them down, but what shifts do you, yay, Cody's got it. What shifts do you need to make in order to expect the best? So think about that. Think about in your business, think about what you've seen over the last few months. What shifts are you going to need to make in order to expect the best? Because I'm going to say that I believe that you know what to do. I believe that you know what you need to do. There might be a little things you're a little unsure on, but there's other people who have already done it. So you can go and find those answers. But for the most part, you know what you need to do. The question is, how have you been showing up? Have you been showing up like ready to take it and to do it and to make it happen? Or have you been showing up with expectations that are hurting you, that are saying it's not going to work? It's going to be a bad month. It's going to be, it's not going to happen. How are you showing up and what are you expecting to happen? So when we're after growth, there are two things, okay? So the first thing that changes in growth is either personal. It's inside. It's us. We change and so we grow, right? The other thing is environmental. So either personally we change or our environment around us changes. But those are the two components that are going to create growth in us. Now, to have substantial, massive, powerhouse growth, we need both. We need to have, number one, it's going to need to start with us. We start feeling the fire. We start feeling all the excitement. We're having the moment where we're feeling it all. And we're like, ooh, yeah, okay, I can do this. But then we also need to be looking at our environment too. We need to be looking at how is that environment either going to lift me or going to take me down? Because it is going to do one of those. It is. It's either going to lift us up and help us to feel more powerful, help us to feel more energetic, more excited, more bold, right? Have more gumption, more tenacity, or it's going to be, and it can be subtle. It can be so subtle, but it's going to be inviting us to play small, right? It's going to be inviting us to play smaller and smaller. So when you're thinking about the growth that you want to have, ask yourself, what am I doing personally? How am I personally setting myself up to grow and to expand and to increase and to see these dreams happen? And then what about my environment? What shifts do I need to make in my environment? Because here's the bottom line. The thing is you did not come this far to stop. Like, you did not come this far to just be this far. You came this far, and everything that has happened between the day you said, I'm going to try something crazy, I'm going to go ahead and sign up for Color Street, okay? From that day to where you've gotten here, all of that was preparing you for all of this, for everything that is in your future. It's all leading you and preparing you and giving you the tools and the education and the information and everything that you're going to need so that you can go this far. But you have to make the decision that you are going to figure out what's getting in your way, what you're expecting that you shouldn't be expecting, what you know you should be doing, but you're not, right? All of those things, you've got to start looking at and figuring that out. You do not need permission or approval or someone agreeing with you for you to be able to do this. And I know it feels good when we have that. It feels really good when someone is like pushing you forward and encouraging you and saying that they believe you, but you don't need that. It's really nice to have, but it is not an essential ingredient to your success. Other people's permission is not an essential ingredient to your success. You can do this and you can create your own growth, and then you can change your own environment if you need to, so that you can get to where you want to go. I love the story about Samuel Pierpont Langley and the Wright brothers. So Samuel, if you haven't heard the story, Samuel Pierpont Langley was incredibly renowned, well-known, had great influence. The government, the United States government, was backing him in his quest to fly, to accomplish flight. I mean, there was no one that didn't think he would be the one who was going to accomplish this goal. He had everything. He had the environment. He had the resources. He had the money. He had it all. And yet, surprising to everybody, it was the Wright brothers who flew first. Now, they had been working on understanding flight in their garage. They had been working on it without almost anybody really realizing. Their friends would come work for free because they couldn't afford to pay them. They would go and spend summers on this beach that had just the right amount of wind so that they could work on understanding the wings. They would study birds and look like crazy people, just staring and studying these birds, trying to understand lift and how it all worked. They worked and worked and worked without anybody encouraging them, without anybody believing them. In fact, the way that people found out that they flew is they sent a telegram back to their father in which some people saw it in the town but didn't even believe it. It was almost completely like missed because no one was expecting that they could accomplish this. And yet they did. So I want you to realize that you can open your own doors, right? Like you can be the one who opens all the doors. Don't wait for other people to give you your doors. You go create the doors. You go open them. And sometimes we're like bursting through them. We're not being timid. We're making our reality by having the gumption to go for it, right? Like we need to have that gumption that says, I'm not going to wait for your approval. I'm not going to wait for your permission. I'm not going to wait for every single thing to be just right because it's never going to be just right. I am going to go after this and I am going to believe that I am as prepared as I need to be to take the next first step and that I will become as prepared as I need to be through every single step that I take. So think about this business. Think about where you want to take it. Think about what you want to see happen. Who is it for? What is it for? What do you want to accomplish? What's going to change in your life when you're getting checks that are what you once made an entire year and you get it in a month? What would change in your life when you are able to say, you don't need to stress about that, honey, I can take care of it. Or mom and dad, I will be able to take care of you. Or whatever it is, what will change if you say, everything I have done has prepared me for everything more that I still want to do, right? Everything has just been leading me and preparing me, and I've got what it takes to take the next journey that's gonna get me to the next place I wanna get. And then what's so cool is when you get to that next place where you wanna get, guess what? You've been being prepared for that one. Okay, so I want to ask you, like, are you doing what you know you need to do? Like, honest truth, like truth serum moment. Are you doing what you need to do? Are you showing up every single day the way that you know you need to show up? Or are you showing up, like, what's the scale? If it's 1 to 100, I am showing up every single day the way I am supposed to be. Or is it something like, okay, Leah, I'll be honest, I'm really like 80%, or I'm really like 60%, or oh crap, it's been a bad month, I'm 20%, right? Like, where are you at? So look at this, get honest. How much are you showing up? And now that you're armed with that information, now that you've had the honest talk with yourself, like, okay, I will admit I have not been showing up the way I know I'm supposed to. What are you going to do starting today, moving forward? And things are going to keep showing up in your life and distracting you. It is life. It is the purpose, right? We are going to keep getting distracted. So we have to decide, I did not come this far to only get this far. I did not come this far so that I can be like, oh, and now, now I'm just kind of leveling out. No, like, you are not meant to play small. You are not meant to level out. You are meant to be the inspiring story for the next person who really, really is going to need this. And you are meant to be the inspiring story for your kids and for the people around you in your influence. I love stories. If you haven't figured that out yet, I love stories. Okay, I have another one for you. So there was a dad who was really funny, like really funny. And he could have been an amazing comedian, but he chose the safe path. He chose the safe path and he became an accountant, okay? So he was an accountant for 11 years and then he got laid off. He got laid off and they didn't know what they were going to do. They had no money. He couldn't find another job. He was struggling and he realized that you can fail at what you don't want to do. So you might as well do what you absolutely love. Well, he had a son, and his son was pretty stinking fun too. And he wanted to encourage that humor. And his son, when he was about 7 years old, someone would come to the door and his son would come falling down the stairwell to greet them. And they would be like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And his son would say, I don't know, maybe I should rewind. And he'd go back up the stairs and fall down again, only he'd try to do it in like slow motion to like make it funnier. And his dad encouraged him and kept telling him, oh, how funny he was and that he could do this and to believe in his dreams. His son is Jim Carrey. His son carried around in his wallet, now I'm blanking, it was a check for $1 million, right? If anyone's heard that story, I think it was a check for $1 million. He carried this in his wallet. Now, there was a point where Jim Carrey was living in his tiny little car, trying to just get jobs, get gigs, do whatever he could in California, trying to make this happen, trying to believe, but it was hard because everyone was rejecting him. Everything was saying no, but he kept pushing through. He kept pushing through these doors and trying to get them to open until he got the job of Pet Detective or Mask. I can't remember which one it was, or it was a combination of those. And at the end of that year, he was given a check for one of those films for $1 million. That check he had written to himself that he had been carrying around for all that time. And that started with a dad who had given up the dream because he thought, I'm going to play it safe. And safe didn't even work out. Safe didn't even end up being safe. I firmly believe that there is nothing safer than working for yourself. As I'm talking to my kids and I'm talking to other people, like I have more faith in me. Like even if my business fails, I've got the tenacity and the grit to go work. I will do whatever I have to do to make sure that I can take care of us, right? I have more faith in working for myself than I do at all in working for a company. And there's so many people who go the safe route because they've been told that's the best way. And it turns out it wasn't safe at all. It turns out that there's no safety in it, that they get laid off, there's downsizing, they never get the promotion, they're looked over and over, whatever it might be. You in this business have the potential to go as high as you want. You can take it as far as you want. And the only person who is going to stop you is you. The only person who's going to get in your way is going to be you. But that also means that the number one person you need to make this happen, the number one person you need to reach levels that are going to blow the minds of the people around you and are going to change not just your life, but have a ripple effect that will be able to change lives around you that are going to be so profound is also you. You are the one who is capable of either one of those scenarios. So we decide, we say, how am I showing up? What am I doing? Did I come this far to just get this far? Did I get to this point and decide like this is it? I'm okay? Or are we gonna see how much further we can take it? Okay, I wanna pause because I've just been talking. So I wanna pause and ask, does anybody have any questions, any comments, any thoughts, anything that's coming to your mind that you would like to share from what we've talked about so far?
You are taking us to church and I love it.
It's a preaching day.
Yes, this is what I need to hear. I think this is what everybody on this call needs to hear. It's amazing. And there's been some good like high
I
five.
know. I love it. It's like the woo, preach the hands. Yeah. So yeah, I love it. Thank you. Those are fun. I'm like, okay, good. You're here. But you know, I totally get it. Like everybody turns their videos off because you're like, you know, moving around. And so I'm like, hello,
Yeah.
hello. Is it me you're even hearing? Right? Like, so that feels good. Thank you. Thank you for the, yes, we're here. We hear you. Okay. Anybody else? Any thoughts?
Fire. That's all fire.
I love it. Thank you. Okay, so let's kind of keep talking. So your job is to open the doors in your head. Like I want you to think about that. Like the biggest roadblock for every single one of us is to open the doors in our own head. Like it's hard. We are surrounded by so many influences, so many things, so much happening. And it can hold us back from recognizing what we can do. So I want you to really think about your job is to open the doors in your head. What doors are currently closed? So I'm going to actually, I'm going to tell a story first because I like stories. And then I'm going to like actually be quiet, which is shocking for me. But I'm going to be quiet for a couple minutes and I'm going to let you write. Like I actually want you to write down what doors are shut in my head right now. Like I want you to figure this out and work through this. So Houdini, Harry Houdini was going around saying, put me in any jail cell, any prison, I will get out in 1 hour. Okay, so he was putting this out there. And there was a warden from a very old prison in the South who heard this and accepted the challenge. And Harry Houdini said, just let me come in my clothes, lock me in the cell, and I will be out in 1 hour. So they did this. They put him in the cell. They closed the metal doors and they left him in there. Well, inside his belt, he had this metal piece, strong but pliable. So he's there, everyone's left, and he starts working to pick the lock. 30 minutes go by, he's working on it. 45 minutes, 55 minutes, he's starting to sweat. He's starting to get like his mind is kind of working against him. That time goes by. The hour goes by, he doesn't get out. Hour and a half, 2 hours. He is sweating profusely until he finally just collapses on the ground. And when he does, the door slides a little bit. It turns out that the door had never been locked. He had in his mind decided, I know it's going to be locked. He was sure it would be. And he's working on it and he can't get it. And he's letting his mind take over and he's letting himself believe that this isn't possible. And he's letting the fear and the doubt and the stress and the sweating bullets, all of that coming in on him. And so was the door locked? Yes and no. The door was not technically locked, but in his mind, it was. So as far as he was concerned, it was locked. He was stuck. And he stayed in that jail cell far longer than he ever had to. It's that same concept where you take fleas and you put them under a jar and they're trying to jump and jump and jump and they keep hitting their head and they don't like the way it feels. So they start jumping just under that height. Well, you can take the jar off and they won't jump higher, even though they're capable because they've put a limit. Elephants, they bind them with the chain to keep them in place. But as they get older and older, they can move it to just a thin rope. And even though that elephant is so much stronger than that thin rope, the elephant doesn't try to break it. It doesn't try to move because it believes it's limited. It believes that that's as far as it goes. So the question was, what doors do you have closed in your mind right now? Your job is to open the doors in your head. So what doors are there that you are going to need to open? So take a couple minutes and write those down. So as you're finishing writing those down, is there anyone who is brave enough to share the doors that you feel like you need to open? What that you feel like are holding you back? Maybe that is looking for approval. Maybe that is that you've had a streak of rejection lately, or you've got some you thought you were going to reach a point and you didn't, or you had some comments made. What is it in for you that you feel like are the doors in your head that that are holding you back, that you need to open up?
I'll go.
Thank you. You're so brave. Thank
Thanks.
you.
I'm literally writing on construction paper because that's all I have in my car. But we're
I
gonna
love
roll with
that.
it. I grabbed the white one so I can read it later. So I just commented, like, do you mean like rejection, approval? Are those the things you mean? And it's so funny because you're like, rejection or approval. I'm like, what? I feel like a lot of times, I don't know. I think too is the fear of success, or a fear of failure. Like I have both of those, which is so stupid because I know I can do anything, and I've done anything. I've done lots of anythings. But I get in my head, So I think for sure rejection, which I shouldn't care what people think, but I feel like I do sometimes. And then the approval of that, because I like the cheerleading part, like, hey Lisa, great job, or hey Lisa, so it's like that approval. So it's like, but that's not, like if I don't see that in customers or whatever, then I'm kind of like, I hold myself back. Does that make sense?
100% makes sense. Okay, so let's look at that just a little bit deeper. So give me an example of that rejection. Like when you're thinking about moving forward and you hit that block, right? Like you're kind of feeling stopped. What are you afraid of? Like what do you think would happen or could happen that is like, oh, it kind of restricts you?
Okay, so something came to mind, this is so funny, and you guys are gonna be like, Lisa, really? So I do vendor events, right? My girl Nikki's on here too. I do vendor events, and we get those cards, right? We get the vendor cards, like, and you have to follow up with them. And I'm spacey, so like I'll set them on my desk, and then I'll forget, and then like 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh crap, I just spent $50 or $30 to do this event, made a couple of sales, but that's the bread and butter is the follow-up, and I didn't follow up with them. So then I'm like, crap. So I literally have a stack on my desk, like a stack of them. And so this week I'm like, I just really need to just email them or call them, if they have the numbers. Some they don't put the numbers. But then I'm just like, then I feel bad because I'm like, well, this has been, some of them have been 2 years ago. Some of them have been, 2 months ago. So just that, I don't know. And maybe I should just own it and be like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm spacey, I forgot, but I found your card in here, So the rejection of that is like, I kind of beat myself up on it because I'm like, I should have followed up with them. So I need a new system. We've talked about that. Nikki and I talked about that, where it's like electronic, where I can work through that instead of paper, where I set it somewhere and I forget it. So that's just something. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was such a good one. Thank you.
Yay,
okay, so
thanks.
this is perfect because like I want us to look at real things, right? So we can be like, let's talk this through. Like that's literally what I do. I say, tell me your problem, I find you your solution. Okay, so and this is the beautiful thing. So much of what you're saying, like you know it. I can already tell you know it. Common sense is not common practice. It's just the truth of it. It's harder to do common practice than it is to just use, anyways, common sense, whatever I'm trying to say. Okay, so number one, yes, you hinted at it, and I want to confirm and affirm that, yes, just own that it took a long time. Use that to your advantage. People need to know that we're real, that we make mistakes. So Cody mentioned that about a year ago, I created a new startup that's called the CEO Kid, and it teaches kids entrepreneurship. And we just last week found that when the chat box, so we have a chat box on the side that people on the site that people can chat into, right? And if we're not on, it goes into somewhere. Well, we found that there was an entire group of chats that were not going anywhere. Like they were just housed. So I was like, oh crap, right? Like, oh my gosh, they like one of them was from January 6th. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, right? So that same feeling of like, oh, this is so embarrassing. Like, how am I going to handle this? So what I believe always works best is just honesty. Take it, like own the like, so I crafted an email that was like, hi, my name's Leah. I'm the founder of the CEO Kid, and you're getting an email from me directly because I am mortified that you have not heard from us sooner. We just found these, realized, let me remind you what you would ask because you probably can't remember because it's been so long. And here's our response. And then I threw in a little something extra. I said, I pretty much never discount anything. And I was like, here's a 10% off code for you to use just because you had to wait so long. So yes, number one, absolutely, you have got some gold sitting there. Like the hardest thing is getting people to say they actually want to hear from you. You have a stack that wants to hear from you. Like they gave you their information, right? Like that's the hardest part. Like, please let me talk to you, right? So we definitely don't want to just scrap that. Like we want to use this. So you take that stack, come up with your approach, and then come up with something special. So, like, and I'm going to throw in this for anyone who places orders, because I just want to tell you that I'm so sorry it took so long. You can even say like, oh my gosh, we were doing some spring cleaning and I found a stack that just got tucked away that we never knew about, right? Okay, that's a little bit of a white lie, but I feel like it's acceptable. So you can, kind of craft something where you can tell a story. It helps them to see you as a real human who they want to support and help and care about, not as this like, robot person who is too perfect, doesn't have feelings, doesn't care. So use it and send it out. But we see something bigger that we want to also address, which is that this is not easy for you, right? Like you get held up here, like this kind of stops you. So it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do moving forward? And you totally said it, like, okay, I need a better system. So I completely agree. Yes, you do. Anytime we see what is getting in our way, stop looking at that as proof that you aren't good enough. Okay? We all do that to ourselves. Things get in our way that stop us, and we say, see, look at me. I knew it. I suck, right? No. Like what is really happening is just that we're seeing and recognizing, oh, this makes it harder. So what can I do to overcome that? I always tell this story. I know you guys have already heard it, but I'm going to say it again. I freaking hate working out. I am never going to like it. I don't understand people who think it's fun. They're crazy, but I know I should, right? So I had this whole schedule. I have to work out in the morning because I also refuse to get ready twice. That is the dumbest thing ever. So I'm like, okay, have to work out in the morning. I have to get this done. But I realized if anything gets in the way, doesn't work out quite perfectly, I am instantly like, oh, can't do it today. Couldn't find a ponytail holder, so I can't work out, right? Like I will come up with anything to make it why I can't. So in recognizing that, instead of saying, well, see, I'm just not someone who can exercise. I'm just going to have to realize that's just not me. We'll leave it to the healthy people. No, I still understand this is important. I still understand this is a goal. So I figured out, okay, well, what do I need to do to not let this get in my way? So every night before I go to bed, I put my yoga pants, my t-shirt, my sports bra, my socks, my tennis shoes, the rubber band is sitting on top of all of it, so I won't have to go find one. I fill up my water bottle. It's going to be temp water. Doesn't even matter. At least there's some water, because one day I was like, don't have any water. Can't find my water bottle. Can't work out. So I literally take every single thing that is going to try to stop me. At one point, I even had to start putting my alarm further and further and further away from me, so I would physically have to get out of bed to go turn it off, right? So I just started looking for what am I going to put in place that is going to make it so that what is blocking me isn't going to block me anymore, right? I'm going to be able to step over that hurdle. And, you know, the final thing, people, I feel like kind of skip over this. It's okay if you hate doing something. Like, that's okay. If you absolutely hate doing a certain part of your business, outsource it. Let somebody else do it. You can find some peppy, cute 17-year-old teenager who can send out all of your, you know, samples. If you're like, oh my gosh, I am the worst at getting to the post office. I am the worst at like actually sending those out, right? Like, oh, it's so hard to find the time, or, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at the follow-up. Okay, well, you could craft the email. Like, you could craft what you want to say, or the messaging if it's through DM or whatever it might be, and then have somebody else get the ball rolling, and then you step in when they're more interested, or whatever it might be, right? Like, is there a way, if this is absolutely the one part of your business that you're constantly saying, yep, I got in my own way there because you just dread doing it, maybe you just let somebody else do it. Like, the bottom line is, if we're talking about $15, $16, $17 an hour, and it's only going to take them 1 or 2 hours to go through, you know, the stack, or to get all your samples and put the address on them and post them and run them over to the post office and do it all for you, like, and that could turn into hundreds, thousands of dollars of sales and on your paycheck, that's worth it, right? Like, it's totally worth it. So I'm so glad you shared that, because I'm like, oh, we can work with this one. That's a good one. So thank you.
You're like the 4th person that's like, outsource. You need an assistant, even if it's just for this area. So thanks for confirming that as well.
So it is really scary. I get that. Like, everyone trying to get, when you start to build a team and you're thinking about hiring that first person, it's really intimidating. And I know that there's all these things that pop up in our head. Like, oh my gosh, what if I can't pay them? What if I don't have enough hours? How am I going to know how to train them? I don't have time to do this anyways. How am I going to have time to train them on how to do it? I don't even have time to do it myself, right? Like, there's all these things that come up. And what I would tell you is that, number one, you can always be very upfront and honest and start and be like, okay, this is my first time, and I have a budget to be able to pay you for 2 months, 3 months. So after that, I'm going to need you to be able to bring in enough money into my business that I can keep paying you and keep working with you. Does that make sense? So they need to, so for example, if I'm paying $200 a month to have someone helping me, I need to see my paycheck go up $200 by the end of 3 months to be able to keep justifying having them. Because the idea is that I want to buy time with my money. So I want to say, okay, I've got this money coming in. I'm going to buy myself more time. And then you decide how you're going to use your time. Now, in the beginning, with your first hire, you want to use that time to make more money. So you want to use that time to say, I'm going to use that time and put it towards the biggest money-making things I do. And then that's going to help me, you know, use them more and that. Once you've established that, then you can start buying time with your money that is just for you. Does that make sense? So at first, my first hire is going to be, I am buying time with my money so that I can take that time and put it into more income producing result activities. Once I've created those, and once I'm really feeling confident in those and that I've really seen that income go up, then I can start saying, all right, now maybe I'm going to have her work even more hours, and I'm going to use some of that time to just have more time, right? Like, fit in the workout, or more time with your, you know, your kids, or more time to, like, all those good things that matter so much. But yes, so thinking about outsourcing that way, thinking about the fact that you can absolutely say this is a trial, like, this is how many hours I think I have. I'd love to have more for you, but to start, this is where I'm at. And then when it comes to training, one of my favorite ways to create trainings is that I just create them on the spot. So instead of worrying about, like, oh my gosh, when am I going to have time to have them come over to train them to figure this out, I just turn my phone on, or I turn my screen on while I am doing an activity, and I just talk through while I'm doing it. So if I was, you know, if I wanted somebody to send out all my samples for me, I would just throw my phone up and be doing them and be like, okay, so here's why I do it this way. Here's what I'm checking. Here's what I make sure. I like to have them packaged like this. I want to have this card with it. I want to have this tissue paper, whatever it might be, right? However you do it. And you're just literally walking through what you do with a video taking place. And then I start putting all those videos. I just create a Dropbox folder that's trainings. I name every single training, and then whoever I hire can go to those, watch the ones they need to know what to do. Then they can ask me questions if they have further questions. It's awesome too, because that means that when one person moves on and I need to hire someone else, I'm not going, oh my gosh, I have to start over. I'm like, perfect, go to the training vault, watch the training videos. Let me know if you have questions. And I've even had them create training videos. I'm like, you know, as they're starting to do new things, I'm like, can you make sure you create a video on how you do that and put it in there? So that way I have it in the future. So hopefully those are a little bit, like a few strategies that can help with the idea of finding someone to outsource. You're welcome. Okay. I feel like we probably have time for at least one more. Does anybody want to share, like, what is the thing that you feel like you need to open the door in your head for? Who is brave? Who will hit the unmute button?
I'll do it.
Yay!
Yay! Okay, so I think one of mine that by the way, I love your stuff. It has seriously helped all month long.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Like everything you talked about today is stuff that I've applied to myself like in the last couple of weeks. But I think one of my biggest doors that I keep shut is that fear of failure and disappointment. Like the failure in this business of not being able to rank up or not being able to like live up to what I think I should live up to. But that I think is my biggest door.
Mm-hmm. So what does that look like for you? Like, give me an example of what that looks like in action.
In action. So I kind of talked to Cody about it, and my other upline is I feel like I was failing my team because nobody was BQing. And if they don't BQ and I can't move up, then I'm stuck. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I try and find what I'm doing wrong. And I feel like I haven't done my job as as their leader, but I can't make everybody be me and run their business how I want to run it. So yeah.
Absolutely. So one thing that's really critical to understand is those personality types. And we've talked about this before, but knowing those different personality types, because it's so interesting how we can be trying to motivate the way that we love to be motivated, right? But it's not working because it's not their motivation love language. You know, it's not their best way to be motivated. So really looking at that and, not being afraid to just ask, how could I show up for you? What would be the best way for me to show up for you, right? And just letting them tell you. I think sometimes we think we need to know all the answers. Like we feel like I'm the leader. It's my job to know what's happening. Right. And that can be so intimidating and frustrating when we're like, I'm just throwing stuff. I'm trying. It's not working. I don't know why. And, and where could we get if we just asked them, like, how can I show up for you? What are you trying to accomplish right now? Because, we all have different times in our life. There are times when people are like, honestly, I'm not trying to do anything except for survive my toddler. Right. And then there's other times where they're feeling the fire and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. Like, but it's not happening. So when we just ask, how do you want me to show up? We can save ourselves from showing up in a way that ends up making them actually feel defeated, which really sucks when that happens because we have the best intentions, right? Like you have these great intentions and yet they're looking at it as like, oh, you're trying to babysit me. Oh, you're trying to I know, I'm not doing what I'm shooting. I haven't gotten the numbers, right? Like they're taking it in this negative manner when you're like, that was not the point. Like I'm trying to, show you what's possible. So, okay. So that fear of failing.
Yes.
Now, let's look at this. There are two ways to fail, okay? The first way is that we just don't show up all the way. We just don't show up all the way. Then we're not going to get where we want to go, but we're going to at least be able to tell ourselves like, yeah, but I didn't do everything. And we give ourselves this little weird kind of screwed up consolation prize, right? Where it's like, well,
Right.
since I didn't show up all the way, it doesn't have to hurt as bad.
Right.
But we're still stuck. We're still in the same place that we didn't want to be. The other option is that we go all out, that we go all the frickin' way. We are gumption, boldness, tenacity on steroids, and we just go full force. And there is a chance that it still doesn't work. There is a chance.
Right.
And so that's terrifying. But here's what I have learned, and I really and truly believe this. When we are at that moment where we think like, none of it's going to work, it did not work, I have failed. That moment is when you are on the brink of it all coming together. That is the moment where you are about to turn that corner where it explodes. And I mean, just start looking at the stories, start looking at the inspiration stories. Where do they all start? How many freaking stories have the moment where they lived in their car, right? Where they were like on someone else's couch, where they're on food stamps, where they're on like, in every respect, they failed. It didn't work out. But the success stories, the ones that we love hearing, they all have one single common thread, that they took that moment where, according to everything around them, you have failed, give up, go get a real job, whatever it might be. They persevered. They pushed a little bit further, a little bit longer. And that for some of them, that maybe looked like, I can do this one more week, one more month. I'm going to try one more, like all out. And then that big break happened, that big moment happened where all of that hard work, all of that preparation finally came together. So we have to ask ourselves, which kind of failure am I going to, would I prefer to live with? That's the way to say it. Which kind of failure would I prefer to live with? Because we can either choose to play mediocre, we can choose to show up, a percentage of ourselves and then console ourselves by saying, well, I mean, I didn't do everything. Or the other flip side of that is that we blame someone else, is that we say, well, it wasn't me. It was these people. If these people would have done what they were supposed to do, then I could have gotten there, right? So we can either choose that form of failure, or we can choose the other form of failure as a possibility, which is that I am going to go all freaking out. I'm going to do everything I possibly can. I'm going to show up 100% day after day after day, and it might not work. It might not work. And that is going to suck when I'm feeling those moments of like, I have done everything. But I really believe it's that moment where you're on the brink, where you are right around the corner. And if you push a little bit harder, it's going to happen. And it's what every single success story, they have the moment. And here's what I really think. I think, and this is only according to me, this is my own little weird whatever, but I think it is the universe's way of saying, how bad do you really want it? You have to prove it. Like, we don't give it for free. We're not just handing you the cake because you're like, I want it. It sounds lovely. I want to be rich, right? Or whatever it might be, right? Like we have to prove that we want it. And the only way we can prove that we want it is to be tested, is to be in the trenches, is to be in the mud where it's like, this sucks and it's uncomfortable and I hate it. And I'm still going to keep persevering. I'm still going to keep digging. And when we have that moment, that is when the universe says, okay, you deserve it. And that's when we get it. But too many people fall short. Too many people, they get in that mud and it's cold and it's disgusting and it's dirty and it smells and they want to take a shower and they walk away. Instead of saying like, oh no, well, let me show you how freaking bad I want this. I'll put it on my face too, right? And they just like all in. So there you go. There's my pep talk about failure.
Perfect. I loved it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. We have only a few more minutes. So as we wrap up, I just want to really, really encourage you to, if you can, I know some people are, like you've got next things to do, but if you can, just take 5 minutes as soon as we hang up and write out what your next steps are going to be. What is your action plan? What are going to be your people movers, right? Like you looked at yourself at the very beginning and you said, okay, 1 to 100%, how am I showing up? And you rated yourself. Then you looked and you said, okay, what doors am I allowing to be closed that don't have to be? Now, what I really, really want you to do is to say, what's my next move? Like, none of this works if we don't take action, if we don't move forward, right? So really just looking and saying, okay, what am I going to do next? And what might get in my way? What might scare me? What might try to stop me? What might be the roadblock? And what am I going to do when that roadblock shows up? Because it is going to show up, because the universe is going to make sure that you deserve the success that you want. So when we come in with that attitude, like, oh, I know you're coming, bring it, right? Like when we come in with this attitude of like, I know it's coming, I know there's going to be hard points, and I'm ready for you. Like, come at me, right? When we are ready for that, then it doesn't hurt so bad. Like, oh my gosh, this is proof that I can't do it. No, it's not. Let's flip that entire script and let's say that it's proof that you can. It's the universe going, oh dang, this girl's serious. I think she's gonna be after this. We better make sure. We better make her show that she really is serious. And you're gonna prove it. And then the doors are gonna open and open and open. So you have come this far, right? You have come this far. And it was not only so that you could come this far. It was so that you could go a whole lot further. So I hope that you will take those 5 minutes and just really sit down and be like, okay, speed writing, what am I going to be doing next? And then start looking for where you're going to schedule those in. Where are those going to happen, right? Because if we're not scheduling it, if we're not making a plan, life's going to happen instead. Like there is no shortage of people and things that want our time and our energy, not the least of which is our children. And it's good. We want to obviously give them all the love and attention. But we need to figure out where the time is going to come so that you can get to that next level, so that you can have gotten everything you did to get this far, so that you can use that and get even farther. Because I know that you can. Like that's not the question. We are so much more capable than we give ourselves credit. So now it's just about taking action and making it happen and opening those doors. Okay, there you go.
Thank you so much, Leah. Amazing information. Like I want to review it, but it would be like a whole nother hour. Like I just want to like emphasize everything you said, but in a nutshell, what came to my head is stop dumbing yourself down. Like you guys are capable of this, just like what Leah said. Like you are deserving and you're capable, so stop dumbing yourself down. If you want it, go get it. Thank you to Lisa and Jolynn for being vulnerable and for sharing. You guys are awesome. I will get this recording up on YouTube, and I'm going to be asking you guys to put your action plan on the comments when I get this up in Nail Nation, and I'm going to be doing a giveaway for those who share. So watch for that recording, and thanks for tuning in, you guys. This is amazing, and I believe in all of you. And again, thank you, Leah, so much. So many amazing nuggets of advice. So, okay, guys, have an amazing rest of the end of month. Go get it, and we'll talk to you soon.